is that currently it's pretty hard to trust the news economy and the news industry. So we decided to develop a decentralized news verification platform. So our idea is that we can bring a layer of transparency to the news industry. So the first question that popped up in our mind when we thought about big lies that changed courses of events is the classic example of what happened with the, first of all, did any one of you did not follow what happened with the Brexit? No. Okay, so you probably heard about the £350 million NHS claim that was displayed on a bus and that toured all around the UK. And what we thought about was asking ourselves the question of, what if actually readers and masses knew that that claim was completely fake? Would voters still have voted for a party that outright lied to them, or would they think about what they told them and maybe try to become more knowledgeable on the subject? And one of the basic conclusions that we had was the question to ask ourselves if there would have been a Brexit if fake news could have been avoided. So, well, as you can see, all around the world, there's growing concerns about whether news are real or fake. And another problem that we see with the news industry is that the revenues of newspaper are lowering, and they are currently shifting from a subscription-based model to an advertising revenue model, which is basically switching from quality content to clickbait, which is a big problem. So, yeah. The issue I was talking about, and the solution we're bringing is the Smart.News verification platform. So as you can see, that's our team with very various kind of background, and also quite diversified because we have half of the team who are women and half of the team who are guys. So I'm going to let Francis continue the presentation.
Yeah, to just give you an idea of what this is briefly, Smart.News is an incentivized verification platform where we have incentives to pay a decentralized network of voters to verify each news content. And so it incentivizes journalists to be more transparent and also provides content that readers can use to be informed. They can see how verifiable, how reliable each news piece is. To go a little more into the ecosystem, in our ecosystem we have the sources, and they upload the content. These sources are like journalists or publications, news outlets. They upload the articles onto our platform. And we have voters who look at these articles and vote on them and assess their credibility, assess the journalist's credibility. And once they do that, then the score is displayed on the platform. And then after voting, the content is viewable by the reader. And the reader can access the content they want, the news they want to read about, and also see how reliable this piece of information is. And so on the verification process, we have the voter, and they would first register using KYC. This would be like putting their credentials, their background knowledge, so that we know what they're valid in talking about and rating. And so in the end, the weight of their vote would be based on their level of expertise or their relevance or their location in terms of that particular article. And in the end, the reward will be given to the voters proportional to how close they are to the average score. And so this incentivizes the voters to be accurate and honest and not give crazy votes. They would try to be as objective as possible. And so what the voter actually rates on is the source, which is the journalist or the writer, and the actual content. And so there's a lot of different variables, like the expertise of the journalist, the bias of the journalist, the transparency value chain, who are they, who are their publications, who is the publication owned by, etc. Whether they have conflict of interest, content also on closeness and relevance to the topic, how sensational or clickbaity it is, and how deceptive it is, or in the actual quality, is it logical, is it easy to read, or is there no mistakes? And so in the Smart.News ecosystem, we have the Smart.News token, SNT, which kind of fuels and powers this ecosystem. Basically, the readers either pay a fee or watch ads to get this platform and consume content. And so they would do this by buying SNTs, and that would be the number of articles they can read. And this money is then distributed to the various participants. So the journalist publisher gets the biggest share. they get 70% of that tokens, and they would share it amongst themselves equally, like 50-50, so that we can make sure that we're empowering journalists and not letting the publications have a monopoly. The voters get 10% of the SNT for voting on articles, and the foundation itself receives 20%. They would use this to sustain the blockchain, the platform, and continue developing the system. And another kind of token in this system is a Smart.News prize. This is a non-fungible token, and it's a unique reward issued monthly to reward the various participants for positive behavior and people who contribute exceptionally. So some sort of prizes might be for voters, the most accurate voter of the month, or journalist, the best article of the month, or the most active and engaged of the month. And these would be in the form of badges, like titles on the website. And this, beyond just being a cool badge that they can have, it actually provides real kind of indirect monetary utility for journalists especially, because on these web pages, their Smart.News prizes will be visible at like a little tag next to all of their articles for a duration of time. And so this makes their articles more visible, makes people want to look at them more, and so it brings in more readers, which gives them like a passive increase in income for a duration of time. And to go through the use cases really quick of like the different people in this ecosystem, the reader. This reader in particular, they want to access a content on a specific event, know how reliable it is, and they want to consume all of these information from just one place. So what they do is they log into Smart.News, they buy the token, and then they look at an article. And so this would be like the home page maybe. They see there's like a little badge on that article, so they know that, oh, this is a very reliable person. And so they click on the article and they can read it and see the score of the reliability and all the various variables along with the actual content. And for the journalist or publisher, what they want to do is they want to gain a reputation for being reliable. And they also want to create a new stream of revenue in the process. And so what they would see is they log in, they go to their page, they can upload their journal or the journalist's content and articles, and they can also see the different ratings for their articles. And this person in particular, we can imagine they are really good, they had a really good track record, and for this month they got the most reliable journalist badge. And so on the homepage, they would have that badge visible there on all of their articles for the next month, which would attract more attention for them. And then voters, they want to read news, but they also really want to contribute to fighting against fake news, making it a better place. They want to be rewarded for this work that they're doing. So they would log in to this website and they would read news, and they would vote on the various variables out of like a 1 to 5 rating perhaps. And
So basically our value proposition for readers is either to have a central platform where they could read different kinds of news articles. So as everyone knows, every journal is quite biased, and what we could offer is having one platform on which newspapers just upload their content. One other thing that would be interesting for our readers is that it would lower costs and it would diversify the information, and they would be sure that the information they read is verified quality content. For journalists and publishers, they could see it as an answer to the shift in the business model and see it as a diversification of income. And they could be titled as verified source or content, and they would also reach a wider user base. So one of the things we were thinking about doing in the future would be to implement some sort of translation algorithm to enable third world countries to, well, not only third world countries, but anyone to be able to read news about anywhere in the world without having too much of an issue of a barrier because of the language. So yeah, and for voters, it would be interesting because as experts and as thorough readers, they could create some sort of income and promote quality content, while they could at the same time lower the cost of reading and help spreading the truth. So when we look at the competition, so we can see 3 different companies. There's MBF, which is not on the blockchain, not directly partners with, well, I mean, you can read everything yourself. And you have the two blockchain solutions, which is Civil and DNN. I don't know if any one of you know them. No? Okay, maybe one. So you have Civil, who tried something which unfortunately failed. They believed in the trust of the users and created some sort of small journals, small centers. Yeah, should
And
go
trust
faster?
in the users means also
Yeah.
trust in the time.
Okay, no worries.
And the time is up.
Yeah,
Thank you very
that was our
much.
timeline, and that's all.
All right.
Done.
Timeline summarizes it very well. Thank you.